So I've taken a TGIF setup on Eurodollar on the 22nd of November, the Friday. We've had a bearish week so far going into the week. We had essentially bearish days. So Monday opened bullish, then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today I was expecting price to find some kind of a pullback, especially because of the fact that we are quite deep or even outside this range. Pulled back really all the way low, took out that sell side liquidity during the week, and we came into this weekly time frame order block and tapped into that, which also happens to be at the start of this monthly time frame fair value gap. So a very strong point of interest, a lot of liquidity resting below this low, and price pushed down into the next point of interest to me, which is that weekly time frame order block, monthly time frame fair value gap, and found some support. We've had loads of news today, so I waited until those news were out before looking for trades. Opportunities to trade. We've still got PMI coming out for dollar, and I'm anticipating price to continue higher up on that news. It might not do that. It might be quite anticlimactic, and it might not move as much as I'm expecting. However, the way price has reacted off this monthly fair value gap, weekly time frame order block, I'm anticipating at least this fair value gap to be filled. And it's the way price approached that level as well. So we've been in a bearish trend for a really long time. Before we came into that level during the week and last week, it was almost looked like we were going to continue higher up, or we were not going to continue the bearish trend. And then essentially we had this strong accumulation zone where smart money accumulated or caught loads of buyers and sellers inside that zone, and they manipulated that zone. And the way it manipulated it with these pause candles at first, where it looked like price was going to push up with this candle, and then it tanked with this essentially a bearish engulfing candle. And now I'm anticipating price to at least, I do think we can take out this high or even come into this range. So I will let the trade run. I'll take target ones off around somewhere here, and then I'll let the rest of the trade run to those highs. Maybe it will go into Monday, which ideally I don't want to hold the trade over the weekend, but we'll see how far prices move before I decide what I want to do. Or it could come down, news can come out and then take out my lows, and this could just be a retracement. However, the way price dropped during the news, we manipulated New York open, trapped buyers, and then tanked. And as price approached this level, I wanted to go long at that order block because of the way price approached that level. It was just, slow build up followed by this sharp bearish candle, and that was a really good sign to me that we're going to hold this. And I was predicting price to come down and tap or take out this low one more time to look for a long, and it didn't, and I was really gutted. And then I placed my another entry at this low right here, which price pulled into and didn't trigger me. And then we got that market structure shift, the A plus entry market structure shift, and then I entered on the pullback. I pulled back on the 50% like always, because I'm impatient and I get FOMO. I'd rather get into that trade. I should be waiting for the 618 pullback, because if that 618 and I waited for that 618 pullback, I would be at 1% right now. But because I took out 50%, I put my stops below this low and below this candle's low, especially on the 1 minute time frame, mainly because we've got news coming out, the PPI news coming out for dollar, and I don't want to get caught with the spread. So yeah, after this close above, I placed my entry at that pullback on the 50%, and now I'm just waiting for the news to come out, because until then I think we'll just be moving sideways and waiting for news to pump it up or pump it down, and I'm waiting for it to be pumped up. I do think there's room for price to come to these highs, and that would be a really good trade. And yeah, we had that market structure shift right here after this low was created, and then we just pulled back into that 618, which is where my entry is supposed to be, and then we've started to go up. Honestly, this high right here is a good level to move my stops to break even, but we have got PPI coming out, and I don't want to do that because of spreads. I don't want to get caught up in the spreads. I didn't realize this, or I wasn't watching this, but we also had SMT with GU. So this is a low of EU, and then GU made one more low. This was essentially during the GBP PPI release, not PPI, PMI release, right at 9:30 UK time. We had this candle, and that's a very good liquidity candle where I would predict normally for price to come down and take out that liquidity and look for longs. And honestly, I was just doing other things today and this whole week where I've not really looked at trades. I just saw this really good opportunity, price coming into a really good level, and that is something I couldn't ignore. And yeah, this SMT, another confluence to add into my list so I can review all the data that I have. And let's just see how the trade plays out. So this is how the trade has played out. It's Monday morning, 25th of November. As I was anticipating or predicting price to come up to somewhere around here and ideally above this, the high of this candle, it did exactly that at the open. Took out that high and it started to find some resistance, and now it's pulling back to fill in some of this gap. I'm not sure if you'll fill in the entire thing or you'll fill in half of it and find support, but good prediction, good trade. But because it was late on a Friday evening and Friday afternoon, I exited that trade at break even because I'm not staying in a trade over the weekend so close to my stops. So yeah, after we pushed up, after pulling back and triggering my entry, we pulled deeper, pushed up, failed to take out that high, and then we pulled back, and then as price started to push up to these back into the entry break-even area, I exited the trade at 0.2R, I believe, a very small profit, and then price started to consolidate sideways, and then it gapped open and pushed up and took out these highs. So yeah, overall great trade in terms of analysis, but because it was Friday evening, I'm not really going to stay on that trade. In that trade, had price starting to move up, right? So after this pullback, had price starting to push up into these areas, I would feel a lot more comfortable letting the trade run. But because it was so close to my entry, my stops at 10 a.m. US time, so that is 3 p.m. UK time on a Friday, there was no way I wanted to stay in that trade. Was it 3 p.m. that I exited? I exited, no, not 3 p.m. This candle I exited on 12 p.m. US time, so that's almost 5 p.m. UK time. Yeah, I exited after this bullish engulfing candle, so I was quite confident with the trade, right? I kind of I was confident with my prediction. It's just a fact that after seeing this low taken out on the 15-minute time frame, I was even more confident. So after price pulled back and took out this low, a New York session low, I was even more confident that we're going to find support. But because it was 5 p.m. on a Friday UK time, there was no way I want to stay in that trade that late in the evening. So I exited, and then we opened and pushed up, which is annoying, but it's what it is. I'd rather that than price gap open in the opposite direction and me lose more than 1% of my overall risk. So yeah, great trade, played out to the T, and just management, I quite preferred my management because that stress of holding this trade over the weekend would have been too much. And yeah, good trade.